Oh God, we went through a portal. How did we get so damn old, Mike? Oh, we cooked too long.
I would have said something, but I was hitting too many buttons.
That was totally worth the 45 minutes of rehearsal we did for that. For all the people just listening. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Keith and Mike Watch Deep Space Nine. We were young children, then we were old cranky men, and then we were somehow older cranky men.
I could still see us at that age. It is startling.
It is stark. I mean, the years that have passed are evident. That they're undeniable.
The stress, they say the presidency ages you. Well, in this case, the presidency ages all of us.
Oh, I feel pretty damn aged.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 24, Times Orphan.
The penultimate.
The penultimate. We have a lot to talk about. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I often feel like I've been trapped in a cave for a little while, as evident by, Keith. I will say to everybody, I had been in sort of last year around July, I pulled my hamstring, doing a split in Forever Plaid like an idiot. And then we got this dog. And those two things really slowed my sort of physical inertia almost to a grinding halt as far as like working out and jogging and things like that. Just the stress of it all and the inability to walk. Anyway, and I've been meaning to get back on the horse. I had a DEXA scan done, so I know all of my numbers, even though that is very frightening to know, like down to like the exact amount of kcals I burned just sitting here.
What is a DEXA scan?
So they kind of scan you and they tell you basically, like they give you a BMI at the doctors and the BMI turns out stands for nothing.
They're always really mad when they tell me
the BMI actually, there's no, the science, it means nothing. You can use it for nothing. It's all BS, especially if you have any lean muscle mass. Anyway.
No worries here.
So a DEXA scan is much more, you stand on a thing, it does a scan, you get your resting metabolic rate down to the kcal. So I know So I burned 1,636 calories just existing, right? So then any activity on top of that. So it kind of helps you know.
Man, that's sad.
Yeah.
I need to be burning about 4,000 calories a day just to keep up.
Well, that's just sitting. That's just living, right? So that's any walking or activity. Once I start to move, so it helps you get a better baseline as to like what you should be ingesting. If you also it tells me exactly how much each arm weighs, how much muscle mass is in each arm, leg, belly, the whole thing. It tells you everything you could possibly want to know. How much water is in my body, Keith? I'm 97 pounds of water.
Wow.
Anyway, and then because I met my buddy Keith, and he was talking about how he's like, I'm just walking 3 miles a day, man. That's what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to start walking 3 miles a day. So like I'm getting out there, I'm moving, and things are slowly starting back into place. So I'm feeling the benefits of that already, just in mood, in everything.
Yeah, but through many incarnations of our shows and ourselves, we continue the journey. Sometimes we've had low-cal Mike and low-cal Keith, but I feel like
now we're just locomotion, Keith and Mike.
So like I have been trying to like get myself back into some semblance of health. So I have been doing that. I've been not drinking any calories, and two, just walking 3 miles a day, just making sure I get my 10,000 steps, and it's made a big difference. But I think you're right. It's psychological much more than anything else.
It's just getting the ball rolling, right? Like Jen's running a 10-miler this weekend, and I'm a marathoner. I've run a handful of marathons, and I went out for a mile jog the other day and realized, okay, I thought that was going to be my starting point, and I was like, no, I can no longer run a mile. So I'm going to walk 3 miles, and then I'm going to walk a mile, run a mile, walk a mile. Like, I'm just going to, I have nothing, there's no rush, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think, like, the only way to health is through sustainability.
Right, yeah.
Like, it doesn't help you to work out like mad for 2 weeks and then quit for 2 years. right? It has so I've been doing my thing for like, I don't know, almost a year now.
Yeah.
And very, very slowly, it's made a big difference. So, sustainability, folks.
There you go.
That's the important part.
Pacing is important, as we're going to talk about for the next 2.5 hours.
Ah. Yes, and so sometimes at the end of a run, you sort of stumble a little bit before you finish strong, and that's the cue. Talk about last week's episode, Profit and Lace, from all of our patrons who, if they want me to read their comment, or a portion of, let me be very clear, a portion of your comment, because we're already going 2 hours. I hate doing it. I read literally every word and appreciate and digest every word. I can't read every word that comes in. So I'm pipping and popping some highlights. And sometimes I might miss the salient point, and to which
or the words entirely.
I apologize. Or the words entirely. Because, I'm cold reading. So I have to apologize in advance.
So hold on. Hold on, I'm taking it off. I'm taking it off. Because it's not going to help the timestamps.
Do you think I'm going to remember that when we do the time?
So look, I hate AI as much as you, Keith, or it scares me as much as you do. But it is fun to make like a gag in the beginning of the show. It saves a lot of time and stuff. But I do want to commend AI for this picture one more time, because oh no, did I delete it already? Mike, you gotta stop. Oh, no, here it is.
Oh, Mike, that might be the most.
Look, it even decided that it was going to make my microphone a rock microphone.
That's pretty great.
Or a rock penis. I'm not sure which one.
I mean, we both look very concerned.
Well, we're trying.
We're living in a cave, I suppose.
I can't imagine what the internet scenario was in the cave.
Like that, I'm
not sure Fios is.
That's Mike realizing, what our upload speed is with rocks. Oh God, you know what? But okay, if we're gonna do that, go back to the Titanic picture too, because I think everyone will just enjoy.
Should we just start over? All right.
No. This is when we met, folks. This is 2003.
Wait, hold on. There's so much to discuss. First of all, are you wearing a wig, or that's your hair?
No, that's my hair. That's back when I had all of it.
I know, it still looks a little bit like. Oh, it's funny. It's like the beginnings of the middle part.
Yeah. So you asked me if I'm wearing a wig. Mike, are you wearing a fat suit?
Well, I will say this. I think I was wearing about 4 costumes under that.
That's true. This was from the opening number. This is from the Titanic National.
I had many characters to play in the next 3 minutes.
In the opening number, which is like a 20-minute endless thing, and especially on our low budget tour where everybody had to play 17 different characters, I was so lucky to be playing the character announcing everything and not have to change my costume 30 times in one number. So yeah, that's Mike under 16.
I'm also wearing pleated pants.
We all were. It was practically the 90s.
Well,
you realize that was 3 years out of the 1990s. Voyager was still on. When we were
watching. We were hoping to get the DVD
to take on the bus. Anyway, okay, a viewer comment. Profit and
third
Lace.
time.
Let's do it for the third time. Joshua Cronin says, I was very curious to hear your feelings on this episode. It's not one of my favorites, but I definitely don't hate it. I do see the misjudgment of women in it from a human perspective. I think y'all looking too deep into this, but I could be totally wrong. This behavior fits their characters. It fits their species. Why would we expect any less? What do we expect Worf to be, a peace-loving pacifist that never gets to go into battle? Okay. We had a couple people sort of comment on this, and I think maybe it wasn't clear about what I was objecting to with the depiction of women via Quark's transition. So, because Quark's, all of a sudden I'm vain and jealous and I don't like learning things, that had nothing to do with Quark being Ferengi. That was not Quark thinking, this is what I should do as a woman from my Ferengi perspective. We are being told that this is what Quark is, with no other changes other than female hormones. So it's not about the species. It's not about that. It is from the writing perspective. How would Quark be different if he were a woman? Not what are Quark's perspectives on women culturally from my background.
Which is
that's what I was objecting to.
Which is why I don't think we were so harsh on Zek for his behavior towards Quark and other women, because that is in keeping with the Ferengis, right?
Right. No, but yeah, it always came down to the decisions made by the writing team, and then the impossibility of playing those decisions. Anyway, Joshua continues, I love seeing Rom in touch with his softer side and trying to help out. I will have to go back and see the podcast episode, but one of you even said something in the effect of Quark was being a Ferengi. This just isn't any different in my opinion. I give it 60 self-sealing stem bolts, and Keith, I would agree with you. Meridian is far worse. Yeah, on that, we do indeed agree. Brian from Video Game Drive-By says, over the years, I've noticed people have many different takeaways from this episode. Better and far wiser people than I have addressed this issue in this episode. The issue this episode had. I highly recommend the Jesse Gender video on this episode. I actually tried to look for it. I need to try a little harder. I didn't find it because I think Jesse Gender's point of view on this is probably fascinating and wiser than anything that we could say. I agree with y'all that its heart was in the right place, and I definitely don't have the takeaway that it was mocking drag or trans people. I've always seen it as a full-on mockery of Quark's inability to understand women. A walking in the proverbial mile was long overdue for Quark in a way, this episode is the final bit of growth, turning him into the better person we've always known he could be. Rom and Lita are an absolute treat this episode, too. They love each other so much, and I hope to be the kind of husband Rom is. May we all attempt to be the type of husband Rom is.
I don't know if I put it in my vows, but maybe.
I mean, retroactively.
Yeah.
Maybe if you guys do a renewal ceremony.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You should definitely do that. Okay. I won't pretend it's the best episode ever, but I can't say I hate it. I gotta give it 79 cans of Sluggo Cola, the slimiest cola in the galaxy. I will say, I bet there was a better version of this episode had they had a more diverse writer's room. 100% agreed. Harry Pothead points out that the Ferengi financial markets crashed because of all the extreme patriarchal people in Ferenginar who freaked out at the sight of clothed women shopping. It wasn't too many transactions, it was people freaking out like it was 72 Iran. I have to go back and watch that, but I'm sure you're right. And that would make more sense considering what Quark is pitching in terms of like how that would be beneficial. Kevin Miles says, I've always looked at the episode as a reflection on our own country. Women didn't get the right to vote until the 1920s, and could not get a major credit card in their own name into the late 60s. Early 70s, maybe late 70s. Based on Armin and Max's performance, I give this episode 80 self-sealing stem bolts. Yeah, I mean, the Quark hormones thing aside, I think that is the Ferengi feminism journey that we're on is all about that, and the staggering relevancy which continues to this day.
I see it actually less as a direct comparison to our country, as much more. I feel like it aligns much more with like sort of, I would say, Saudi Arabia and some of the Middle Eastern countries that are so much further behind us
today. Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
But I think I think Kevin's point that we forget that there are mothers were not allowed to get a credit card.
You're right.
In their adult lifetimes. So you think that and they couldn't buy real estate, they couldn't buy a house, they couldn't get and we think, oh well, that's not a thing anymore. Well, our literal mothers,
right,
had to get their husband's permission to get a credit card. And so it's not quite so, it's not nearly as far in the rear view mirror as we think it is, let alone the pay disparity gap and blah blah blah, and bodily autonomy, whatever, which is all painfully relevant. But yes, the Ferengi culture is a much more aggressive version.
I say that, and then I realize that your comment about, and once again, this is like facts. I'm not going to even bring my political beliefs into this, but one of the major exit polling things for when Hillary lost the election and when Kamala lost the election wasn't, and look, there are legitimate concerns. There wasn't enough on-ramp for Kamala to get to know her and her blah, 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 blah. The exit polling showed a lot of people are still like, women are too emotional, women are too this, women are too that. And so those airs, those vapors that Keith said Quark was playing are still a thing people think.
Incredibly still relevant.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like misogyny still alive and kicking and thriving in this world right now.
Or as Rent said, misogyny, it's between God and me. Or wait, no.
No, that's not... That is a really deep cut. If you know the actual lyric, that's even funnier. Okay, so Kevin finishes. It appears my comments from the previous 2 episodes got deleted somehow. I hope I didn't say anything offensive. Definitely not.
No.
No. I would delete a comment. I would notify you, and why. You have to do one of 2 things. One, be intolerant in some fashion, or spoilers. I don't think you need to do one of those things. That's Google. Google does weird stuff, and I don't understand.
Google does weird stuff. I said it on the YouTube thing, but I'll say it one more time out loud. We don't moderate the comments. If something offensive was said, or like politically offensive, like you're a Nazi or some sort of thing, like we would probably moderate that if YouTube didn't catch it, and we would notify, and we would do that, or spoilers. But YouTube does moderate based on links and weird stuff. I don't know their policy, and they do not notify us, right? So
we don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, that actually is the best point.
Yeah.
We don't know that Google does this, so we are not aware that this even happened. So
yeah, YouTube viewers having some issues with it too, and he figured out some stuff that was causing that to happen. But the bottom line is this: we are not doing that.
No, definitely not.
And our community is cool. We wouldn't have to.
No, we would not.
But we will.
I'm gonna move this to the, or it depends. Am I in a mood? It might happen.
It was funny during the watch along last night, and it was cool. We did it later we did like 9:30 p.m. and we had a different group of folks because of time zones and stuff. So it was fun. Sure. And one of the jokes at the end, I asked a question, sort of a non what? Why can't I think of what it's called? Rhetorical question. Oh my God! Yes. Sorry, brain. I am an educated human being. Anyway, I asked a rhetorical question.
The tariffs will be rhetorical.
And someone was like, "Don't answer that question. Keith will be mad."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like,
"Don't answer that
Keith,
question."
it's like a dog. You've now trained with a heavy hand.
Thank you, whoever moderated that. So, Hibernation Pod says, Next Gen, DS9, and Voyager will always be my big 3. Love them all. Voyager felt more like a shift over rather than a step down, at least for me. I agree. It simply meant that there was more Trek to watch, which is what mattered most. I really hope you guys do it. Oh, we will. As for this episode, my completist nature forces me to watch it so I don't miss anything that might be important to the meta at some point. 2 self-stealing stem bolts, 1 for Rom, 1 for Quark, and we got 1 voice message from Hibernation Pod.
Hey guys. So yeah, I think about this episode and I really don't even know what to say about it. I feel like I don't have the background to speak to it at all. It's kind of like what Keith said about Vermont. All the right intention, but really never spent too much time around the community. I just sort of sit and listen, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. However, it's not an episode that's all that great to me, especially in one of the best seasons of all. So anyways, the Castle in the Clouds part, that's not what I was thinking, but still.
Awesome. Right. Yeah, and yeah, I you and I feel similarly on trying to listen as much as try to listen before I speak, because I come from such a non-diverse background and non-diverse community, because I have a lot to learn even still. Thank you for that. If you would like to send a voice message, you can do so to look at my Star Trek toys at gmail.com. Try to keep it under a minute, because we're barely going to talk about the episode, because we have so many thoughts and feelings. Next up is Mysterious Anne. I went searching for a different trans take on this episode. There's a whole wide range out there and lots of good insights. I especially appreciated a podcast from the archives of Women at Warp, episode number 125, Transness in Trek. It's a great listen. I'm going to add that to my listen feed. This episode falls way short of its potential, mostly because of the sexual assault slapstick scene, which was pretty common but still awful in the 90s. Yes, it was. But I don't completely hate it, and I don't skip it when I'm doing a rewatch. I really love watching Deep Space Nine as a sitcom about unlikely neighbor families, the immediate and extended family units that form from the pilot and over time around Ben Sisko and Quark. Really interesting. Yeah, totally. The series explores relationships with the two families and the way their families are connected through Jake and Nog and how it changes. Over time, Quark and his family engage as, in a sense, queer. None of them are normal, Ferengi, not even Quark, and not even the memory of their dad, Keldar. The Ferengi family members, including Lita, all get queerer as the show goes on in delightful and unexpected ways. Quark is the most attracted to the idea of being normal, but he's too much like his mom and too much a part of his family to fully commit to conformity. Because I grew up in a household and now parent in a household where we don't conform neatly to gender norms and expectations, I appreciate the DS9 Ferengi family and the way each of them is a bit cute and complicated in their own way. Great point. Mm-hmm. And I think it's there. I think it's there in subtext. I think it's there in text a little bit. And I appreciate it.
I was reading and I'm oh man. I did jot it down in my journal, but I can't attribute it right now, and I apologize. But I found a really interesting conversation about the word queer and the sort of umbrella of letters and alphabets that is ever growing, right? As people demand to be identified and seen and all those things. That how some of these words, queer being one of them, at some point, maybe not now, things are changing so rapidly and whatnot, was designed sort of as a catch-all, right? For even maybe folks who are not... The whole point is not... I think of this thing I was reading was that I found fascinating, was that there's a group of folks who are so afraid or angered by the fact that not everything or every person can be defined by one word or one attribute, and that is complicated, right?
Fit in your bucket.
Yeah. That is it is complicated. However, this particular exploration was juxtaposing that versus that a lot of the folks, I won't say majority, I'll say a lot of the folks who feel that way are so eager to believe in religion, which by its very nature is about the great mystery, right? Something that cannot be defined and you cannot point to. Or
well, there are many religions who would say it's not a mystery.
Right, you're right.
I'm telling you what it is.
But like, of course, that hypocrisy of hate, I think, is something we can all agree on. Is that how can you claim to be a God-fearing, loving person or spiritual person, and then define your life by the people who you oppose, right? So, anyway, I don't want to get off on that tangent, but I just thought, so Anne's comment there about this sort of queer angle is really interesting to me. I see it as it not being queer as in Quark or Rom are not identifying as homosexual in this particular way. It's just queer as in different than the typical Ferengi. I think is cool.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first. We're not a big fan of hate. So,
Keith, would you say we hate?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. And continues. Finishes.
It's the hot takes on this show.
Oh, wow.
Well, you know.
Spicy hot.
Yeah.
No sound clips from the household this week, but the mysterious children are delighted to have proclaimed. We're delighted and have proclaimed Dad is famous.
It's true.
Yeah.
You're waiting for it.
Oh, yeah. I want to.
This for a surprise, He-Man.
50 stem bolts from me. YouTube viewer says, if you're going to do a comedic episode with Ishka and Zek, don't sideline Ishka and Zek. Those two characters are comedy gold.
Keith, you and YouTube viewers are really coming together.
You know, it
was a rocky start?
We find common ground where we can.
Mm-hmm.
That.
That's all we're asking in this world we live in.
Yeah. Last episode, Starfleet tried to send a major diplomatic message to the Grand Nagus, but the message literally blew up. This episode, the Nagus comes to Deep Space Nine, and they don't take the opportunity to open diplomatic dialogue with him. A missed opportunity. I like, because YouTube writes this like a political speech. Let me do it as a speech. A missed opportunity. We never get to see Ishka have a meaningful interaction with Nog. I'd love to explore their grandmother-grandson relationship. I'm guessing they have a healthy relationship, but I don't know this. It would have been a sweet moment at least. A missed opportunity. We never get to see Ishka have a meaningful interaction with Lita. I'd love to explore their mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship. What is going on over there? I'm guessing.
I was trying to do political rally. I don't have many sounds.
Now you got to join in when I say it. I'm guessing
they have a healthy.
No, Jesus Christ. God. I'm guessing they have a healthy relationship, but I don't know this. It would have been a sweet moment at least. A missed opportunity. There we go. Starfleet would have been delighted to support a Ferengi movement to give more rights to females, but they still sit this one out without mentioning the Prime Directive or any reason why they don't.
A missed opportunity.
This episode has some funny moments, so it's not a complete loss. I only give it 33 out of 100 strips of Latinum.
Wait, didn't somebody else do a political? Didn't they write us a comment as Trump?
It's coming.
Okay, you put it at the end, and I just ruined it.
I put it at the end, of course.
Yeah, I ruined it. Are you gonna do your Trump? Yeah, of course. Why am I asking these questions?
Well, yeah. You know what's great about comedy? If you say what you're gonna do before you do it, to raise expectations, and then it's really bad.
I know, but now I'm screwed because if I cut it, Keith will be mad. If I leave it, I've ruined it.
No, you don't cut anything.
No.
Here's Mike in the editing room. I want to be slick and corporate. I wish I was an Apple movie and taking out all the funniest bits.
Cut to Keith complaining at the end. Oh, it's too long.
No, well, it's too long because it's too long. But the longness, we should sit in it. But like
that's what Dak said.
Steve Jobs, Mike over there, like, ooh, slick.
He's
corporate
dead.
Music.
I don't want to be dead.
Well, so's comedy if you keep editing it.
Well done. Wrong button.
JD.
I gotta update the soundboard. It's like He-Man and a trombone. I gotta do better.
You can do better.
Yeah.
Do better. It's a missed
opportunity.
JD says, do you really not know what too long didn't read means?
No, JD, I didn't.
I genuinely didn't. It's how everyone other than Keith responds to my video comments. Yeah. Well, me too. Like, everybody responds to our episodes. Too long, didn't watch. Also, Mike, you didn't put the links to those albums for Jen.
Yeah, you got Google.
You know, you make a promise and then you're like,
I'll go back and do it.
I don't want to support my wife.
Actually, that's not true. What I want to show you, JD, is in my notes app, I have the 3 links right here.
Mm-hmm.
And right there. It's not
great,
right.
You know,
I just never put them into the Gmail.
Follow through. I feel Brunt was there because they like Combs and they wanted a clear villain for the story. Yeah. Hold on, I scrolled the wrong thing. Yeah, and the only thing Quark needed to become progressive was hormones. If the Learn to Walk scene had played more like a similar scene from The Birdcage with Robin Williams, it would have been vastly better. Everything would be vastly better if it were more like The Birdcage. It's okay because Lita likes her little metrosexual genius man. Who doesn't? When you examine the performances by the supporting cast, Wallace Shawn, Zek, and Cecily Adams Ishka deliver committed performances. Armin Shimmerman Quark makes the most out of a tough and cringeworthy script. it does have transphobic undertones. The central gag of Quark undergoing temporary gender reassignment to impersonate a female Ferengi plays into transphobic tropes, especially the idea that gender identity is a costume or performance. The joke relies on outdated and offensive humor that mocks femininity and queerness rather than exploring gender in a thoughtful or respectful ways. In 1998, trans representation in media was rare and often deeply problematic. By 2025 standards, the episode was painfully regressive. It is misogyny played for laughs rather than critiquing Ferengi misogyny. Yes, that's my point. So much better stated. The episode often ends up reinforcing it, with Quark's transformation used primarily for comedic effect rather than meaningful insight. It's a rare Deep Space Nine misstep in a show otherwise known for its thoughtful takes on ethics, politics, and identity. This episode is worth rewatching only with a full awareness of its flaws and maybe a cringe buffer.
See, that is the point, JD, and thank you for saying it so saliently, that I think is worth mentioning again. Because there is a space between, I think you're looking at it too harshly, right? And you're being a culture warrior on something that doesn't have the intent to offend, right? There's a space between. And that is what I think. I no way do I think that in that writer's room they were intending to offend, or they were even intending to discuss trans existence out in any way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean that since we have taken on the task of examining it 25 years later, that we shouldn't look through the lens of how would that be viewed today? How could that have been written differently? Et cetera, et cetera. And I think
piecing through what they're intending to say and what they're unintentionally saying is what a podcast is about.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, now, here's the part. Now, I'm not going to read the whole pitch, because time, but I think everyone should go check out JD's pitch here, because he has a rewrite way to fix this episode that when I hadn't thought of it, and when I read it, I'm like, oh, duh. This is how you make the episode work. And that is, as opposed to having Quark go in whatever journey he went on, bring back Pell. Now, do you remember Pell from season 1 or season 2, who was pretending to a female Ferengi pretending to be a man in order to do business, a business genius who was female, who we already know and who is established, who could have represented that incredibly well, and I would have been delighted to see Pell back, and maybe we could have fired up some of those romance flames again. That's 100% the way to fix it.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, do you think they even tossed to that ball? They were like, hey, we already wrote this character.
I think they forgot. I mean, look, they wanted to do Quark and Drag, right? That was that's what got this exciting for them.
Yeah.
That was the thing, that was the note card. But man, that's the way to do it. That's the way to fix it. JD finishes. Ultimate rating, it's not bad, but it's not good. To be generous for what it is, I go with 50 self-sealing stem bolts. DC says it's not good. Watching it originally in my younger years, I don't remember having much of an issue with it, but as someone who does a lot of writing as an adult, I just don't get why they went in this direction. Agreed on both points, right? Teenage Keith was like, I'm not picking up on any of that. I know what they were going for. They were going for comedy and farce, but I agree that it comments more on women than it does on toxic masculinity and equality. I do wonder what it'd have looked like if Ishka had been allowed to carry through with her plans and encountered the same behavior from Nilva. Another rewrite that I think would be better. Also, they could have used Dax's or Kira's commentary on the situation if they wanted to push a positive feminist narrative, but they sidelined them. Yes. Because Ferengi episodes isolate the Ferengi characters so heavily, it feels like the writers aren't confident that they work in the overall universe when it comes to culture-based stories. Another really good point. Great series of comments there. They do wall off the Ferengi episodes, and the rest of the characters go away because I think most of them would be like, what are you doing? This is horrible. And that sort of
Yeah, not only
breaks up the caper.
obviously we know what the show is about, right? But not only do they wall off the Ferengis, right? Mostly, but they wall off just basically the male Ferengis. Now I get it; it's a male-dominated society, but we don't have much of the female viewpoint of Ferengi society at all.
Well, at this point, we've met two in 6 whole seasons.
Right.
Now, I think part of it is because culturally they're completely nude. I think they couldn't figure out how to work around that. But yeah, we've met 2. Come on. DC finishes. For all that, I give this 25 self-sealing stem bolts. Alan Gurton says, not a favorite, but okay. 65 hormonally adjusted stem bolts. Star Trek Voyagers, Robert Duncan McNeil and Garrett Wang are doing a podcast watch-through. The Delta Flyers journeying through the wormhole. I subscribe. I'm not caught up, but I definitely listen, and I really enjoy it.
How far are they?
I believe they're in season 4. We're ahead of them. But they have guests, Armin Shimmerman and Terry Farrell. And we let to listen to them talk through their experiences of the episode. I'm looking forward to Armin's commentary when they get to this episode.
Keith, has Armin...
Yeah, me too.
Has he returned your email about coming on our pod?
Weird. I don't want people to come on the pod.
I've got him here. I got a signed audio right here. I'll just leave it here.
That's true. And lastly, our good friend Carl Fisher sent us this on the Patreon. He said, no. So, decided to ask ChatGPT if a certain orange-faced monster were to review this episode. This is what ChatGPT would how they would review this. So, the title is tremendously disappointing. Let me tell you, folks, I love Star Trek. Always have. Big fan. But this episode, total disaster. Profit and lace. What a title. I thought maybe it's going to be about business, making deals, Ferengi capitalism, which, by the way, I've always thought was very smart. They know how to make money. You've got to respect them. But what did I get? A total train wreck. Sad. First of all, the story. Quark becomes a woman. Give me a break. I'm for having a little fun, little comedy. Nobody loves humor more than me, believe me. But this is just embarrassing. The jokes, not funny. The makeup, horrendous. I've seen better wigs at Mar-a-Lago Halloween parties and mirrors. Nobody believes Quark is a female, not for a second. And the message, oh boy, so preachy. Let women wear clothes, let women earn profits. Let them have control over their bodies. Ha! Look, I'm all for women in business. Melania, Ivanka, incredible women. Powerful, beautiful, smart. But you take the Ferengi, who are supposed to be the ruthless businessmen, and suddenly they're doing lectures on gender equality like it's a 1990s HR seminar. Also, I hate to say this, but it made Quark look weak. And I like Quark. He's got ambition, hustle. I see a little bit of myself in him sometimes. But in this one, totally humiliated. It's fake feminism, folks. It's not empowering. It's very awkward. Very low energy. So in conclusion, profit and lace. Terrible episode. Should have been called Loss and Embarrassment. Bad writing, bad acting. The worst kind of politically correctness. Total loser. I give it 1 out of 5. Gold pressed Latinum bars, and that's being very generous. Do better, Starfleet. Donald Trump. There it is. My voice is gonna hurt for 2 days.
Probably worth it. That was great.
Yeah. So, and the best part about that is I do not believe Carl asked for that to be a comedy review. And honestly, like, that was so much more coherent than it would ever be. Okay, let's talk about Time's Orphans. What do you say? So, this episode, speaking about orphans in time, do you know this episode aired on the very day, the very moment
Baby Jessica?
I became an adult?
Keith, you became a man.
I became not that kind. I had to wait. No, this aired on May 20th, 1998. The top song, gonna look forward to this. we've moved on from the Boner Jam for at least 1 week because they're going to be giving it My All by Mariah Carey.
I have never heard that song before.
You definitely have.
Giving it my all?
No, just My All.
Oh, okay. Because I gotta be honest, I've never done that. Never tried that.
And when you do, you don't notice.
No.
Is that it?
I don't really even have a joke for it. I just don't know the song. How does it go? Can you hum it? Do you know it?
I listened to it.
Why would you do that?
I always listen to it. I always listen to what the top song
Oh
was.
boy, Keith. I got a better idea. Hold on, let me. Oh boy, we are just breaking the internet today.
I think it's pretty broken already.
Yeah, okay. So while you were reading that, I didn't get it in enough time, but I said, "Hey, dear ChatGPT, if you wouldn't mind, could you make this guy, blend this guy and DT Trump?" You know what I mean?
Oh God.
Yeah, I know. It's scary that I would do that, and it did so, Keith. And I'm just, oh God, I'm kind of horrified. I hope everyone is ready for what I'm about to do to us all. But here we go.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! That is the most upsetting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa, God.
Jesus.
But I'm keeping it so that every time you do your impression now, this is.
Oh, great.
This is
well,
what
here,
we
I
get.
fixed it.
Will you fix what?
I fixed the picture.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Whew. Wow.
Well, I'm sorry that exists somewhere in the interwebs now.
Oh, God. Now the internet.
China's got that.
I just want to know who the jowls came from. Was that me or him? Oh, God.
You could probably tell me. I won't ask.
I don't. No. Do not. Oh, I'm so sorry, everyone.
Yeah, I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry that I did that to you.
Like that would have been funny in 2015. It's deeply not funny anymore.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But here we are. The top movie, something lighter. Godzilla. The Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Hank Azaria.
Yep.
Yeah. There's two Broadway people now, so yeah. So there you go. It's not good, but I do rewatch it every once in a while. Just because, it's fun to see New York get destroyed.
No. I'm not sure I've ever watched it once. At least once.
Really?
Probably. Yeah, I'm sure I remember it, so I must have seen it once.
How could you not have? I feel like that would be a thing to go really well on your ridiculously large and loud television.
You're probably right.
All right, Mike, what was on your small tube standard definition television?
Keith, we were only in season 4 of Friends, but it was a good one. It was the season finale of season 4, the one with Ross's wedding part 2, where Ross and Emily's wedding takes place in London. And we all know how that turned out. Not great. Frasier was also airing its season finale, The Life of the Party, where Frasier throws a party that goes out of hand. I didn't watch Frasier. Keith, the season finale of The Practice.
Oh, yes! Which
season 1.
After there's 6 episodes.
The Firm, where the firm faces a major crisis. Remember, they were like, are we going to stay open or not? I think that's where they take over, right?
No.
Well, also on CBS, the season finale of season...
Is Shatner on that yet?
No. Season 10, season finale of Murphy Brown. The series finale, the final episode, where Murphy Brown says goodbye to her colleagues.
Oh.
Wow, what a sad night for primetime TV.
Big night of TV.
On HBO, we were in season 6 of The Larry Sanders Show, which if you haven't done a rewatch of The Larry Sanders Show, you should go back and watch it. It's sort of is well before its time. Curbed, all these sort of faux reality shows or faux mockumentaries. It sort of was Larry Sanders started that.
Oh, it's great. Penny Johnson Gerald's on it.
USA Network was airing La Femme Nikita, which interestingly, if you weren't, I could never get the HBO. There's parental locks on our TV, so it was hard for me to see this sort of Showtime, Skinamax type stuff. The closest we could get was La Femme Nikita on USA. It was like
Totally.
the softest of Skinamax.
Well, like USA back in like the 90s, like tried to be like pixelated Skinamax. Like it went pretty trashy after like 11.
And that's what was on TV. A night of season finales.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And guess what? What was Voyager doing? Their season finale, Hope and Fear. Yeah, it's because they stagger them a little bit, so it was very smart. This Time's Orphan was directed by Alan Croker, who last directed His Way. It has a story by Joe Manoski and a teleplay by David Weddle and Bradley Thompson. Which means it's time for some very...
Now keep waste your time with trivial trivia.
Okay. All of the crying and vocalizations for the baby character Yoshi was actually the voice of lead dialogue editor Ashley Harvey's 18-month-old daughter, also named Ashley. Is there an equivalent for Junior, but female? And why isn't there? Probably misogyny.
Guess I never thought about that.
I've never once thought of that until exactly that
Like,
moment.
you don't hear Jen Jr.
Right.
Well, we'd have to look up the etymology of the whole thing. I'm sure it's rooted in, like, why you firstborn... Because an heir, I believe, like, your royal heirs and whatnot always had to be male, right?
Right. No, it's definitely rooted in misogyny, but it's just interesting, like, because female babies don't matter.
Well,
but
since I have ChatGPT up, I'll ask, but you continue on.
Great. Okay. They recorded Ashley, and so the father Ashley was male, daughter Ashley was female. Asked what he could do to get her to scream and cry so loudly and horribly. His answer was, "She cries after her nap to let us know she's ready to get up. I just didn't go get her right away, and she was not amused." Those sound editors doing troubles. I do that in my family. The idea behind this episode was originally developed for Firstborn, where it revolved around Worf's son, Alexander. Interesting. So that was season 7 of Next Gen. What's it say? What's ChatGPT say, Mike?
Well, it gives 6 reasons, but I asked them to break it down in order, and the number 1 reason is patriarchal naming traditions.
There it is. That makes sense to me. I'll buy it.
However, Keith, though uncommon, some women do use suffixes like Junior, so Anna Eleanor Roosevelt Jr., and the second you'll see sometimes, right? So there you go. Like if named after the aunt or grandmother rather than a mother.
Okay. Well, there you go. The writers considered establishing that the time portals were Iconian in origin before deciding not to focus on the workings of the portal. The look and design ultimately they used strongly resembled the Guardian of Forever from the City on the Edge of Forever and Yesteryear, and was later featured in Terra Firma Part 2. Since it was determined in this episode that the portal was broken and malfunctioning, its lack of Guardian voice may be understandable.
Do you know what I thought it was at first?
What's that?
I thought it was Founder Butthole.
Could have been.
It looked like a changeling butthole. It looked like changeling goo, and it was the shape of a butthole.
It was. It wasn't the greatest looking effect. It was very near the end of the season. Mm-hmm. It was something they could make on their phone in 1998. The console that Chief O'Brien uses to operate the time portal is a reuse of the console he and Bashir used to deactivate the Harvester bioweapons in the second season episode, Armageddon Game. That was a good episode. This is the second time Miles and Keiko have had to deal with a difference in the Keiko and Molly's respective ages being narrowed. The first time was Keiko was transformed into a child, but in the episode Rascals. So that family
I forgot
always getting aged and de-aged, which is it's too bad they didn't reference it, because they literally have had the moment of 11-year-old Keiko not knowing how to deal with a baby.
Oh, right. Yes, I
And
remember,
then,
yes.
and now you have an 18-year-old child. Yeah, interesting. The guest stars this week are Rosalind Chow as Keiko O'Brien, Michelle Krushik as adult Molly O'Brien, Hannah Hete as Molly O'Brien, with co-stars Sean Beanick as the deputy and Randy James as security.
Keith, you mentioned it. Do you want to talk about how we know her?
So, well, this is Hannah Hete. This is Baby Molly on one of my all-time favorite guilty pleasure shows, Hell's Kitchen, or Kitchen Nightmares.
Man, she looks exactly the same.
She does. So this was probably 10 years later or so, and Hannah was not an actress. She was working at her family's restaurant, and Gordon went to save her restaurant. And there's no mention made of the fact that this is Deep Space Nine royalty here trying to save a restaurant.
Has anybody done a custom Molly?
I don't know.
Or at least a custom cave Molly.
There's got to be some custom Mollys out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't even recognize that until I believe it was somebody here told me that she showed up on Kitchen Nightmares, and that blew my mind because those are the intersection of two of my most enjoyable things.
In fact, I want a whole custom O'Brien set. I want O'Brien with Molly and Keiko.
Yeah, well,
and Yoshi,
is a Keiko,
of course,
but it's bad.
And Yoshi, of course.
Yeah, so there you go. You know who we would like customs of all of?
Yeah, we're working on it desperately, Keith. That would probably be the patrons, whose names I will now butcher. Brian Kilmer, Beersock, Peter Bank, Frank Rinch, Quark Spar, Yama, Ryan Chesley, Andre, Jamie, Lubin, Jason Moe, Deborah, Joshua Cronin, and Mike, Andrew Hayes, Alan, Ann the Mysterious, Worf's Big Old Boot Shivs, Charles Babbage, John Kelly, Keith Blank, Harry Potter, Anton Thies, Carl Fisher, Alan Girton, Deborah Scott,
Potter.
Trim, Chancellor Jen, Brian from Video Game
Chancellor
Drive,
Jen?
Nikolay Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Odo's Bucket, Lost Emu, Scotty B, Merritt Neath, 86 and Company, YouTube viewer James Hubbard, Hibernation Pod, Mary Holcomb, Rogue Knight, Aroha, Lady Beyond the Wall, JD Miggs, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, CRM, Frank Rinch, Pat, Kevin, Joshua Cronin, Fedora the Explorer, Aroha, DC, Endra Mayhor, Maynard, Jerome Gibson, Chanel, Laura Morrison, Ryan Caputo, Kevin Miles, Wyatt Eldridge, Lutz Kremer, Bowling for Soup, Mr. Smokin' Dragon. Folks, you can also be part of the Hall of Fame. These are the Hall of Fame members. They've given us so much money. We appreciate them. We love them. And there are 2 pages. You can join the club at patreon.com/KNN.
Wow. You know what? One week, I want to flip jobs and have you read all the patron comments.
Yes.
It's probably how we should do it, since I have to read the whole show.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. We just never did it. We never did it.
And that would make my workflow better.
Sure, man. I'm happy to do it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I like this. All right, next week, Mike reads the patron comments.
Will you still collate them?
No. Because you get to choose what you want to read.
Oh,
so
yeah.
choose your own adventure.
Well, you know I'm going to chat GPT the shit out of that.
No, you cannot use ChatGPT. You have only used it for evil all episode long.
You're right. 100% right.
I mean, meanwhile, there's like a mountain smoking from all the energy you used to turn me into the monster. Let's go into the screening room.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, dogs everywhere.
And humans and other living creatures of all sorts. Okay, time's Orphan. Oh my God, Keiko is back, Mike. Keiko's back.
I was excited. I'm sure little Miles O'Brien was excited as well. They should have locked that door. Molly just comes walking on in, because my guess is that they had some business to attend to.
I would imagine. So, yeah. So, Molly wakes up Miles and Keiko in bed. They've got plans to go on a picnic. On another planet, mind you. The writers, who we've been big fans of last 2 weeks, decide to start by giving Keiko an unlikable beat to start, making her nag Miles about his diet. First thing we hear from she's been gone for like 2 seasons. Start off by being a nagging.
Speaking of fat body shaming, right? I'd like to appeal to all the kids out there. All right, I know there's a lot watching the show.
I hope not.
My nieces were over. They are teenagers. They are 16 and 15 respectively. About to turn 16, 17. Anyway, and they kept saying, I kept hearing them saying big, 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 big. And I was like, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, that's how you say someone is fat. They don't call people fat anymore. You're like, oh, you big, and stuff like that. And I was like, you need to stop doing that. That isn't funny. I know you're using it colloquially, but it's not funny, and you should stop. And I'd like to say that to all of you out there now. Let's stop body shaming, hey? I don't care what words you use. I don't care how funny or jokingly or you're just poking somebody's belly. Stop it.
Well, yes, and I am so careful and so like specifically intentfully careful about everybody but myself, but I body shame myself 3 times a day, and I'm working on it.
All right.
I'm trying.
I'm saying it to you too then, buddy.
Also, switching from fat to big is a distinction without a difference.
Yes.
All right.
Correct. I believe it's big back, but it's all bad.
Yeah, well, there you go. But it did make me ask the question, aren't replicated foods all calorie regulated? Haven't we established that, like, even though it looks like a big steak, it has, like, good ingredients that are good for you?
Yeah, but imagine if you replicate them all day, they still add up.
I don't know.
You think something beeps and it's like, okay, we're putting 0 calories into this? Can you do that?
I believe that everything is like specifically
so
made
I could get
to be
like
good for you.
pancakes, a sundae, everything, and then when I eat it, it's only like some fiber and a couple calories.
I believe they established it on Next Gen, but I may be wrong.
Somebody
answer.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody answer. So they put
and
on
the cat.
Molly's and the cat and Chester. So they put on Molly's Chekhov's bracelet, and she shows Yoshi a picture of where they're going. We see that O'Brien still has the cat, and they, of course, make Keiko dislike the cat as well, because the writers want us to dislike Keiko. They arrive at a beautiful green planet that looks like California. O'Brien reassures Molly that he's never going to send her away again.
Great establishing shot, because the second I saw this shot and the second he opened his mouth, I said, Molly's going to go in that cave and fall down a hole. I mean, it's the first thing. I mean, it's like one picture to describe the plot perfectly. They didn't have to say anything.
No, we all know it's...
Somebody's going to walk into that rock that looks like it has a door.
Yeah, it goes through the door rock. Yeah. So, O'Brien promises never going to send them away again. If the war heats up, he'll put in for a transfer. This, of course, after Chekhov's bracelet is Chekhov's promise. Molly cartwheels away and straight into said mysterious cave. She screams, and they run to find her, and they find her clinging to a ledge over a weird CGI portal.
The weirdest.
She falls and disappears into it, then the portal closes. Now, I have to say, that effect looked flat terrible, but you want to know who enjoyed that? Hannah Hatay.
Oh, yeah?
The little girl playing Molly, she said this was the most fun day she'd ever worked.
Oh, yeah, because I get to, like, drop proper...
She got to be in a harness
yeah.
and got dropped, and, like, she loved doing that. So, that's fun. So, in Act 1, a large Starfleet team has arrived at the Stargate to try to figure out where Molly went. Dax explains that Molly, somehow they know this, has been sent 300 years into the past via a time portal.
Keith, quick aside, because
Yes.
It was a big aside last night, and now I'm going to just make it brief. Do you remember the show, not the stupid movie, the show Land of the Lost? Where, like, people went through a portal and then were with the dinosaurs?
I am culturally aware of it, but I never saw it. It was never on a channel that I had.
I loved it. It was a Will Ferrell movie, actually. I take it back. Maybe I will watch that dumb movie. But I loved it. Was like B-movie.
I think I did watch the Will Ferrell movie.
It was like a B-movie TV show from '74, but we would watch it. It only ran 2 years. I thought it was longer than that. But somehow CBS used to use it in the summer. They used to run it as like a block
Filler.
of TV before or during their sort of cartoon block. Oh, we were obsessed with it. And the second she fell through that, they're like 300 years in the past. I was hoping so bad we would get the episode of basically what we got, but there, right? Like with the dinos and stuff.
I mean, if it were done today, she would be sent 30,000 years and be fighting off dinosaurs.
Well, they did in 74. I mean, it looked like crap, but it was good crap.
Well, yeah, but like, how cool would it have been? Because you're basically doing Castaway.
Yeah.
And we come back and like she's like standing on the head of a triceratops or something. Like, that'd be fun. But that's not what we get. So they've got to find a way to reactivate the portal, but they don't know how to operate it. The plan is to get the portal running again and beam Molly back through. So Brian works feverishly and Kira takes Yoshi back to the Defiant, where she and Odo remind us that Kira carried Yoshi for 5 months. Does beg the question why our B story is Worf and Dex and not Kira taking care of Yoshi.
A couple people asked that question, but I think that would be like a little... Kira and Odo would probably be a little more sullen of an episode, and because we're still not like... We still don't know what's going on, or like... it's cuter. It's a cuter B story.
It's cuter if it's not a giant wormhole, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
So, Kira mentions that she might want to have one of her own someday, which of course lands on Odo because he can't biologically be a father with Kira. Maybe? What do we... How do I say this delicately? What do we know about Goo Goo? Like...
Someone confidently last night established that Odo cannot have children. But I don't know if we're just making an assumption there or if that's been established somewhere.
Well, it would make sense because like you literally become the thing that you are. So that thing would be able to goo and probably do that. But once he like reassembled himself, said whatever material would have been transported would have needed to return.
But also
to
that's
him.
a little reductive because we start this beat with Kira talking about how, I feel such a kinship. I carried her. Like we live in a future where there's all kinds of possibilities, right? Like it doesn't need to necessarily be their biological children. So
no, it doesn't matter today. I don't know why it would matter then. But Odo, being Odo, is going to be insecure about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
I mean, we've already seen a changeling anus this episode. Who knows what else is out there?
Called a Chanus? Odo says, according to the archaeologists I talked to, the portal was built by no customs. It was built by a civilization that vanished 1,000 years ago. Which means if Molly survived the fall...
I'm not going to be able to get over it. Hold on. Let me just...
Oh, yeah.
Be
Get
done
ready
with it.
for the cut, because Mike's having a good time.
Janus.
Which means if Molly survived the fall, she would have found herself all alone. An 8-year-old girl stranded alone on a deserted planet. With any luck, Chief will be able to beam her out a few minutes after she fell. She'll hardly know she was gone. On the planet, O'Brien and Keiko are naturally panicking. Dax calls and says the Gizmo MacGuffin is ready to go, and they beam Molly back through to discover that Molly is now 18 years old, looking like a cave woman.
So hold on, before we even get there, I'm a little back on the screenshots. I think it's important, because I'm going to talk about it later. Like, what a freaking heavy lift was asked of this page of scene for these two folks here. They're like, all right, so we're having a good time, everybody. Now we want you guys to play Your Daughter's Dead, right? Like,
yeah,
out of nowhere. I mean, and what's interesting to me, and I will say, I'm gonna stay as positive as I can for as long as I can. What they've done well here, the sort of sleight of hand they've done, is that not but only 3 episodes prior, we killed a whole ship of kids. So it is not necessarily unprecedented that Molly could be written off the show here, and we're gonna talk...
on Deep Space Nine, sometimes the kid dies.
Right, and we know that they don't use them a lot, and we know that, you know, she's not the strongest of actors, and maybe so my whole thought process is here in this episode.
She was great in Kitchen Nightmares.
Is that potentially she did? Potentially they're finding a way to write an older actress as Molly into the show so that they can. There's a lot of it's not necessarily going to just revert back to status quo, as has been a complaint. Now, that might very well still happen, but I'm just saying
spoilers.
I wasn't certain of that at this juncture. And they do a pretty good job of playing that pathos, even though they're given no time to establish it.
No, and I have to say that Colin and Rosalind, in the pretty iffy script, do a phenomenal job with subtle but highly emotional acting here. I think like they do terrific work, and
it really establishes them as parents, I think, in a good juxtaposition about people deciding to maybe be parents, and then you're seeing parents in the face of really like the most challenging things. So I think it's one of the better A-B story pairings thematically.
Yeah, fair enough. So we meet 18-year-old Molly looking like a cave woman. She is feral and panics and bites O'Brien before being sedated by Bashir. So it's such an interesting idea that, again, doesn't get explored. But, like, how does an 8-year-old survive on a planet with no regular... Like, how did she survive? I'd love to know that story.
So there are... So much like my cult show obsession, I also really, I don't want to say enjoy, but I have an intellectual fascination with these stories of gross neglect where kids have been left in like, either there are the really sad stories of like humans who have imprisoned them, or there's this girl, I think in Sweden or a Norse country of some sort, that was, they called like Wolf Girl or something, that she was sort of neglected out. She lost out in the wilderness, and she was like raised amongst wildlife, and she was very much feral like this in a way, and had no language skills, but a lot of like pack animal type of behaviors. But that all said, there is a huge whole study of like child psychology, of like the immense amount of trauma and neglect it takes to reach this state, and I'm not sure that type of care or is really afforded this story, nor is it really kind of meant to be that. But I would say that I think this actress does give a good attempt at
I think she does. I think she sells it in a way that like later it gets pretty upsetting, which I think it should. Like, yeah. But yeah, the logic of this is very, very dicey. So Bashir confirms that they pulled her out 10 years too late. And Keiko asks, if you tried again, maybe you could pull her out when she was still a little girl. And Bashir says, well, if you retrieve little Molly, there'd be no one to grow up and become this Molly. You'd be erasing her existence. And O'Brien says, but our Molly would be back. And Keiko says, this is our Molly. We may have missed 10 years of her life, but we don't have the right to take them away from her. Thus, sidestepping the ethical quandary we've already wrestled with on Children of Time.
Okay, it's fair. It doesn't mean they don't do it anyway, but okay.
Well, we're gonna MacGuffin it, but it's at least they're not intending to do that.
But once again, like that is an interesting parental decision and an interesting parental dialogue. Once again, like I like the parental choices being made here. For the most part,
it is an interesting ethical choice they're making here, and it probably is the ethical choice. It's hard to say, because like again, with like the trauma that she must have gone through to get to this point, I don't know. But it's
but you look at those shows at this is what I kept thinking about. You look at some of those stories of people whose kids were kidnapped, let's say, for like 25 years, and they finally get their kid back, and the kid like thinks it has this other whole family, and there's so much deprogramming that has to happen and all these things, but the parents in that moment are just so thrilled to have their child back, that like hole is filled, that they're operating kind of like omnipotently to the actual day-to-day traumas of it. So it's the moment didn't feel truncated yet for me.
But it's also interesting that only one side in this experienced all of that time.
You're right.
For O'Brien and Keiko, it's been like 2 hours.
You're right. Actually, I keep forgetting that, right?
It's interesting.
That's weird. That's like they woke up this morning and Molly was a baby, and now she's a feral
It's sort of like what
ninja
happened
monkey.
to us. Like we fell asleep when we're in our 20s, and all of a sudden we woke up and like, oh God.
Yeah.
That's how I feel every morning.
We did live it, but I don't remember.
I still remember it, yeah. So Molly seems to have forgotten how to speak and who her parents are. And Bashir says that's true, but don't expect her to accept you right away.
Well, I didn't
it's
see
possible.
this physical trauma. I guess she's had a tough life out there.
Well, she had to like claw and fight and kill things with her bare hands. It's starting at 8. It's insane she was able to survive, period. So Bashir here tries to address a problem that I have with it. And he says it's possible she blocked out the memories of her earlier life in order to cope with her isolation. Because for me, her going so feral, right, and not remembering how to speak and not remembering how to like do basic tasks and still operating at such a childlike level, and we'll talk about it more with like the drawings and stuff, like if she had been dropped off as an infant, that would make sense to me. But dropped off at 8, she'd already established all of these patterns. She knew how to speak. She knew how to think. She knew how to operate a spoon, right? And so, yes, it might be unfamiliar, but I don't, like, it's like she deleted the last 6 years of her life.
I think...
And I don't know how that would work with the trauma, that kind of stuff, but I was like, this sort of feels like they initially made it Yoshi who they dropped off, but then realized the baby would just die immediately.
It's funny you say that, because what I was going to kind of bring up later was like the episode's maybe more interesting and realistic, quote hard quotes, if when they find her, it's more, and maybe they make it 20 years or something, it's more like okay, sorry, I'm going to cross properties here, but like a Ben Kenobi, like an old Ben Kenobi sort of hermit meets Gilligan's Island, like that is really smart and like has crafted all these ways to survive, like in a hut and whatnot, and like is pissed off at them, rather than this sort of take, because
it's like if she was clever enough to have survived by herself starting at 8, she had to be incredibly smart, incredibly adaptive, and
when
like,
she's saying home, she must have created like a sleeping system, a whole thing.
And like she's created like spoon, how spoon work, and it's like
what we want is Tom Hanks and Castaway. Like that's what she should have been.
Yes, she should be coming back as a supreme badass.
Yeah,
and not a wild animal. Like there can be parts of it that are that way for sure, but it doesn't really make any sense. Anyway, so they set up a more familiar environment in the cargo bay designed to look a bit like the park. Ironic, considering Keiko set up an arboretum on the Enterprise, also in a cargo bay, never addressed. Meanwhile, Worf and Dax have been tasked with babysitting Yoshi while the O'Briens take care of Molly. Worf takes this as an opportunity to prove he can be a good babysitter. Dax says he's not good with babies, forgetting we had a whole joke, a whole runner last season about Worf being the only one who could get Yoshi to
stay
sleep.
Quiet. Yeah.
That was the whole punchline of an entire episode. Was Worf was surprisingly good with babies.
Well, his
but
nature.
He wasn't.
It was just that like he was uncomfortable in those moments.
He was uncomfortable, but he was great with the baby.
Do you know what? And I'm gonna bring this up later.
Okay.
There's something about his entrance into this scene, the way Dorn approaches it, a softness, a lightness, a smile, a empathy that I'm not saying I got called out last night because I was like, well, Worf has always had this. I'm not saying it's un-Worf. I'm saying we don't barely ever get to see it. Even when he was courting Jadzia, and like he's always got this exterior shell of warrior. He enters this door into this scene with such a lightness that is such a wonderful take. I loved it. I just loved it.
Well, I think you see the influence of Jadzia and how happy he is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like because they're still in the first year of their marriage.
Yeah.
Right, so they're like right in the sweet spot, right in the good stuff. So he's happy and he's thinking about having kids and all that. Like that's the fun part. So adult Molly wakes up in the cargo bay in a new outfit and after a shower. She's naturally confused and frightened and climbs the tree. Miles and Keiko try to build trust with food, but she's gone completely feral. But it's hungry. After crouching down to her previous height and looking up at her parents, she shows some recognition and tries to speak. I think that's a really cool, like that. There's some nuggets in here that are really cool. The idea that she was the perspective change that allows her to recognize her parents.
But to Keith's point again, and look, I'm not a child psychologist. I don't tend to know, but
You're not?
Six is pretty long. You basically know what your favorite food is by then, right, bud?
Okay, couple of things. Yes, 8. She was 8.
Yeah. So like, Keith likes egg rolls. All right, Keith love him an egg roll.
Sure do.
So if I locked you away for 10 years, and then you came back and I showed you an egg roll, you still know what an egg roll was.
Yeah, let me tell you. I don't care how long you throw me in the woods. I still remember Skittles.
Yeah, right. It's weird.
Weird.
Especially like a basic thing. You're like, hey, here's a cookie. You're like, what's a cookie?
What?
You know what a cookie is?
Yeah, I know what a cookie is. What? But I think they try to like varnish over that, like, oh, the trauma made her forget everything. Okay, maybe. And again, not a child psychologist, but it feels.
Now hold on. I mean, there's like, I'm sorry, we're just rewriting the episode here and there. They remember they said it was far enough fall that it could have killed her. Easily could have bumped her on the head and given her amnesia. Like we could have just started from there, right? Like there's an easy way to check off
like
that
a
away.
Traumatic brain injury or something like that. Yeah, I mean, but
She's just got a knot on her head.
It's just like
Anyway,
it's like a rock stuck in her
I'll
head.
stop. We should stop
10 years.
rewriting the episode and just talk about the episode that exists.
Yeah. So, Keiko then gives her old doll. It's all very strange. Molly doesn't seem to have survived and adapted. She seems to have de-evolved into more of like a primate.
Yeah, so she definitely studied like primates,
like chimp work.
chimp work to do, and it's very effective. Once again, not
also,
knocking the portrayal.
Why would she walk? What advantage in survival does it give you to walk around
trees?
like a chimp?
Climbing trees?
Like climbing trees, sure, but like walking around like a chimp, right? She knew how to walk. She was 8. She wasn't 2.
I also missed the scene where maybe when we go back in the holodeck to her land, where we'd see some of her survival mechanisms, like why she adapted the way she did. Like, but it's just the same. I guess they shot it in the same day, so they could. But you know,
well, but also it was a holodeck, so it didn't know what she'd done.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, like again, like I'm trying to figure out how going de-evolving helped her survive.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense.
Listen, I'm with you.
So Keiko and Miles continue to try to build trust with Molly by playing with the ball, again treating her like she's still a child, not an adult who has not communicated with people for a long time. Meanwhile, Worf is having a hard time getting Yoshi to sleep and is getting frustrated. Dax wants to help, but Worf refuses to give up. I'm a Klingon warrior with a Starfleet officer. I piloted starships to the Dominion minefields. I've stood in battle against the Kelvins twice my size. I courted and won the heart of the magnificent Jadzia Dax, and if I can do all those things, then I will make this child sleep. You are judging my fitness to be a parent. Do not deny it, Jadzia. I see it in your eyes. I have proven myself a worthy husband to you, but you are not convinced that I would be a good father to your children. And considering the father he was to Alexander, a pretty wise thing to be like.
The costuming of the PJs is bizarre to me too, but whatever.
It's they're space jammies.
His particularly very Robin Hood. Like Robin Hood had a baby with a ninja or like a karate guy.
It is. He has like a really short robe if you weren't wearing pants underneath it. You're like, yee! Oh, dear.
Oh man, that's the cut scene I need.
Oh, I dropped my towel.
And that's her face. She's like, I'm trying to sleep, brah.
Yeah, exactly. So later in the cargo bay, Mike and Keiko,
Hey.
Mike living his dream,
Yeah.
watch Molly sleep in a tree. They've been working for a few days.
Now hold on. The question is, Mike, would you swap your life to be with Keiko if you had to raise a feral monkey baby?
I mean, look, she's 18. Time to kick her out of the nest.
Yeah, you're right.
Time to kick her out of the literal nest.
Don't come a knocking if the cargo bays are rocking. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. So Keiko brushes her hair for some reason, because, like, I get it that they moved a couch into the cargo bay and like they're kind of staying there, but like, it's a very sort of.
What do you say? This episode is one of those ones where Keith would say, like, they wrote it backwards, right? It's like, oh, we got to make sure she's brushing her hair so that we can get the brush.
Well, it's they came up with the plot point and then tried to retroactively justify the object's existence there, and they didn't do a great job. But Molly recognizes it and wants the brush. This is a memory for her. Later still, Bashir and O'Brien check in. They're making progress, but she's still not speaking. And she drew a landscape at a level below the level of an 8-year-old. And below the level of the 8-year-old who draws it later.
Right. I don't know the point that's trying to make.
Like, again, like, did she have a brain injury? Like, what happened here? Like, I'm so confused. However, there is an interesting little detail, and Bashir points out that she's anthropomorphized the landscape. Which, that's an interesting thing, too, right? She's all there alone, she's lonely, so she like, thinks everything is like her friends.
Wilson!
Right, she's Wilson's. Yeah. I would have loved that to be explored. It's an interesting observation, but the idea gets discarded for some reason. They arrive in Worf's quarters, where he is playing with Yoshi and a Klingon rattle. Later, Miles discovers Keiko in the cargo bay. Molly is panicking. She's running around the room and saying she wants to go home. Of course, Molly and Keiko think she means their quarters. And Molly does briefly enjoy looking at the stars. They show her old room, but this causes Molly to panic again. She wants to go back to the planet. And O'Brien has a good idea, and that is to take her to the holosuites and set it to be the environment she was in. And Molly is really happy to be back on the planet, but doesn't know it's fake. Quark, of course, then arrives to tell them their time is up. The Klingons have it booked, and they're forced to turn off the program abruptly, which causes Molly to completely melt down. And this part, like, I felt for Molly in this situation. Like, this was really, had to be really hard. Again, treating her like the feral creature that she is, not what she should be, but, like, this was kind of upsetting.
Yeah, but...
yeah, go ahead. But
I think there's a wonderful moment we'll talk about later with Odo and O'Brien and his facility, his ability to be a friend and how he goes about it with high stakes. Once again, and here's a moment for Quark, right? Like the sort of enormity of this scenario with Molly really is only weighing on the O'Briens right now. Like, everybody else is, with the exception of the Doctor, everybody else is sort of flip about it. We don't even see Ben. Everybody else is playing babysitter. Like, nobody's really giving it a lot of weight. And even Quark here has an opportunity to be able to tell the Klingons to go F themselves and, like, help this lady for a minute. I know he's profit driven, but he's enough of a friend, enough of a team player that he might be like, hey, I'm going to give you 30 minutes or something. But
well, I think the reason that they're Klingon is to, like, buy a little bit of, like, they're scary.
Okay, but just feels a little hollow as a beat for Quark. But
yeah, well, everybody else is on vacation. See, because Colin was gone for a couple weeks shooting something. So, like, all right, we're gonna give him an episode. Everybody else, chill for a week.
At least Rosalind was like, look, I'm not coming. If you're gonna like just use me so limited, at least let me cry. I better get a crying scene
for sure. So Molly melts down and runs through Quarks in great distress. He runs screaming and breaking things, biting Quark and throwing extra after extra everywhere, and ends up stabbing a dude in the chest. Uh-oh. Odo and his guard stun her. So in Act 4, well, charges have been filed. Assault with a deadly weapon. And Sisko says, I talked to the Federation magistrate and has explained the situation. She wants Molly to be brought to a special care center on Davos Prime for evaluation. And O'Brien says they're going to keep her there, aren't they? We might be looking at a long-term situation, yes. but it's the best facility of its kind. Well, that escalated quickly. Also, again, that feels like such shorthand. Because, like, somebody coming out of that sort of a trauma and just not being temporarily not responsible for their behavior, like, you don't just throw them in the loony bin with no due process in, like, 5 minutes, right?
Well, who?
We needed
Somebody
to back them into the corner to get them there. But again, it just feels like sort of shorthand, like the brush. Like, we get it, but, like, we're just not really setting
Yes,
things up.
clearly at this point we would have better facilities for people going through, like, even now, present day, children who go through this type of trauma, there are people who have studied it long enough that can help their reintegration programs. There's not that here.
Yeah, and why isn't there a therapist helping to guide them all through this? Like, obviously you want O'Brien and Keiko to be the face of it.
Where's
like,
Troy, man? Where's Luxana?
Yeah, we need a Troy here. We need, like, a whatever.
It sounds like Keith and I, we just want what's best for Molly.
We do. We really want what's best for weird feral chimp Molly. So, Molly is freaking out in the holding cell like a caged animal, and she runs into the force field several times, and this part I thought was genuinely upsetting. And I think part of that is the situation, and part of it is the performance. Like, I was just like, oh, this is stressful. It was really stressful to watch her be in this type of distress for as long as she was.
It really triggered me. Can I share a quick anecdote?
Yeah.
We talk synchronicity sometimes. So I just watched this crazy good documentary
You
called...
realize that's not a word, right?
Yeah, I know. But we
Okay,
coined
good.
it, so why can't I use it?
Okay, all right, fair enough. I just wanted to double check.
I just watched this crazy, awesome documentary called, I believe, Walk of the Pangolin. So, do you know what a pangolin is?
I do not.
It's basically a dinosaur. It's a mammal meets an armadillo. It's like It's like a
Mamadillo?
a mamadillo. It's this Australian crazy cute thing, and they're highly they're used in traditional Chinese medicine, so they're highly poached, and they're like unicorn animals. They're so highly endangered.
Hmm.
And there's this whole group of rescue people who basically are each assigned a pangolin and, like, have to walk with them for miles, because these are like walking mammals, and get them back to sort of reintegrate them into the wild so they can release them. And part of this guy's trouble with this one is he's got this one pangolin who just, like, wants to beeline because he's so nervous and stressed out. And the biggest issue with them on preserves is that a lot of these preserves are guarded with electrical fencing. And pangolins' defense is to curl up in a ball. So a lot of times when if they're not supervised properly and they hit the electric fence, they curl around it and they're just basically electrocuted to death.
Oh, Jesus.
And that part of the documentary was, like, breaking my heart. It, like, really hurt me deep, because they're so damn cute, and I don't want anything to electrocute itself. But then I see this scene with Molly the next day, and I'm just like, no, it's the pangolin! It's the pangolin! Get her out of there!
Yeah, that's 100%
it's exactly the same thing.
synchronicity. Yeah. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
So, so they sedate her again, and O'Brien knows nothing good is coming. Later, Dax comes home to an upset Worf.
Time out, Keith. Real quick, time out. This is a pangolin. That's a real thing.
That was gonna be my. Is that a real thing?
That's a
like,
real
that doesn't
thing.
look like a real thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, it's a dinosaur.
That's a crazy looking creature.
Yeah. It's on Netflix. March of the Pangolin, or like.
I'm not gonna watch it now.
No. It all ends up okay.
Oh God, no! You upset me. I'm not gonna watch that. I don't watch. You know, like things about horrible child abuse or pangolins wrapped around a fence. Like I can't watch that. It makes me too sad. And as I get criticized for, I don't care to feel sad. So I don't.
We must bear witness, Keith.
I witness enough. I'm not gonna go watch extra sadness. It's like adding extra salt. It's not good for you.
That's fair.
I have enough sadness. So, anyway, Worf's upset. Yoshi had a fall and bumped his head.
Pangolin.
They were playing, and Yoshi ran into something. And Worf says, I failed, Alexander. I failed Kiriyoshi, and I would fail our children as well. And Worf storms out like a big baby himself. But that is something that anyone who has ever babysat has to go through at some point. because these little kids, they knock themselves silly all the time, and you feel like you have now just like committed the greatest babysitting sin in all of human history.
Yeah, babies is weird, man.
Tuesday.
It's like babies are both incredibly astronomically hardy and also not. Right? It's like they're both at the same time. It's like, I don't know how to hold you. Like, just it's fine. You really can't hurt it. But at the same time, don't touch its head. Right. Don't drop it. Don't let it eat poison or electrocute itself. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like both. Worf, I get you. I've been there. I know exactly what that feels. Also, you're being a big baby.
Yeah.
Both of those true at the same time. So Molly and Miles try to figure out what to do. She can tell that Miles is cooking something and is keeping it secret from her. His plan is to do a jailbreak and bring Molly back to the planet, then send her back through the portal into the past where nobody can find her. And he says, I wish there was some other way. Galana was her home for 10 years. She knows how to survive there. She'll be all right. Again, I feel like there'd be some other way to negotiate this, but, tick-tock. We gotta go.
This reminded me, it's funny you say that. This scene made me emotionally feel exactly like someone I know has a bunch of dogs, right? And one of their dogs is like really not suited for its current environment. All right, it's a danger to those in the environment as well as itself. It's just not living its best life. And so they're always like, "Oh well, if it leaves this house, we're gonna have to put it down." And I'm always like, "Yo, no." There's like 30 other options before we get there. So I feel like, yes, I know that we don't want Molly to be at an institution, even though maybe that wouldn't be the worst thing for her. Definitely don't want her in federal prison. But I feel like maybe we could off-world her somewhere else. Like, if I'm not mistaken, a couple seasons ago, Kira found this old man just living on a planet. There's a lot of space. There's probably a remote farm somewhere.
Well, it's a cute idea, but we deport our problems here, so...
That's true, but we don't deport them back in time where we can never see them again.
We disappear them pretty brutally.
That's true.
Anyway.
This is better for Molly, yeah, I guess.
So O'Brien does the jailbreak, knocking out the guard and taking her off to a runabout where Keiko is waiting.
Time out. One more. I'm sorry. I'm really derailing, but if we have the conversations now, we don't have to do it later.
Okay.
So I brought this up. Nobody really disagreed or agreed, but if I'm the writers here, right? What was his ruse to knock this guy out? Oh, he's like, oh yeah, it's in the log. Just check the log. And then when he checks the log, he zaps him. Why not falsify the log? That'll buy you 15 minutes, which is all you need. By knocking him out, now, the second he wakes up, he's going to go tell Odo.
Well, and he's going to be under charges for assaulting an officer.
I've seen O'Brien falsify logs, do this, do that. Everybody's like, well, Odo's going to figure out he falsified the log. Yeah, he is, but he's going to find out a lot slower than he just zapped a guard.
And also, the charge for falsifying a log is different from assaulting an officer.
But anyway, they did the old, look over there.
Yep, they do it. So Odo arrives in Act 5 and sends the security officer away. And perhaps speaking for us, says, if anyone could break a prisoner out of a holding cell and get them off the station, I'd have thought it would have been you. I'm embarrassed, Chief.
Yeah.
On your way. So they head out and arrive back on the...
Unless he was hoping Odo would come, so he could employ his help.
Possibly. So they head out and arrive back on the planet, back to the portal, and they give Molly a knife and a blanket and a doll. Maybe could have given her like a replicator,
some
an
rations,
iPad with information, some food, a shelter, sandwich. Nah, forget it.
Through the butthole. Just through the butthole.
Just through the butthole. So their plan is to put her back into the same moment in time they took her out.
The time we couldn't figure out before. The whole team was here and we couldn't figure out the precise time. We got it wrong. But now we can do it.
Yeah. So O'Brien starts the portal. They say goodbye to their daughter. And this is where I think Rosalind and Colm do an excellent job.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch this scene just for how subtle, but how heartbreaking they're intensely connected to the emotions here.
Yeah, up until this point, I'm still thinking, I think they're writing Molly off the show, and I wasn't exactly happy about it.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate O'Brien must suffer. Like, basically sending his daughter back in time where he can never see her again.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So Molly says goodbye and walks through the portal, and she's surprised to run into 8-year-old Molly.
They nailed it.
Who is cowering in the shadows. Not what their intent was.
But it's also possible, like, in the best of happy endings, this is like 10 minutes after they sent her back in. It's possible this could have been like 3 weeks after she fell down that hole and she's still effed up.
They say it was a day.
Yeah, that sucks.
So that's some pretty traumatic.
That's some baby
times.
Jessica shit.
Yeah. So, adult Molly shows child Molly the way home and gives her the doll. Little Molly walks through just before Miles destroys the portal, and adult Molly winks out of existence.
She quantum leaps.
Having never been created.
She quantum leaps. So we got Encino Man meets Quantum Leap meets Land of the Lost.
Yeah, there it is. Lastly, Worf arrives home from pouting, and Worf says, "Did you apologize to the O'Briens for me?" Yes, and they said not to worry about it. It's not the first time he's bumped his head because he's a toddler. Worf was going to avoid the O'Briens from now on, but Dax says that Yoshi was playing with his Klingon rattle, and Worf realizes he didn't do such a terrible job after all. Back with the O'Briens, we find out that Sisko is going to smooth out the whole jailbreak thing, and Molly asks to see the girl who found her. O'Brien says, according to the Dax, the recalibration didn't hold, so the portal sent her back to the same point in time that it sent little Molly. Keiko says...
You know what? Forget the hour and a half, Keith. That 3-second beat really just does the best job.
That did it.
Yeah.
Keiko says, I wonder if she understood that the little girl she was looking at was herself.
Probably.
Says, I hope she did. I hope she knew that in a way she was coming home too by not existing anymore.
And they get back to Pound Town.
Yeah, because, like, I don't think this like feral Molly who didn't know how to use a spoon would definitely not have understood the temporal mechanics that got her wiped off of from existence.
Right.
Lastly, Molly shows them a drawing of the planet, which looks more sophisticated than her adult version, and she also anthropomorphized the trees and rocks.
Keith, more upsetting, Molly's discrepancy in drawings or the paintings that dead daughter of Ducat did.
Oh God, they were both bad.
Keith doesn't stop drawing on Trek for Keith's money.
Draw better.
Yeah.
Draw better. That's all I have to say. You're 18 years old.
AlamarEmmys, there was more. AlamarEmmys, it's AlamarEmmys time.
Wow.
Oh, God damn it! It always hits.
It's a banger.
Yeah.
It's a banger. There's no way to get around it. So, best moment.
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I think Worf's entrance and beginning of the B plot, where he's just like so thrilled to prove his babyness. It's just a good new color, or a different color for him, and it's cute, and it filled me with that feeling I had when I first saw my nieces, and I just thought Dorn, I like when he gets to do something a little different.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, in an episode that is hot nonsense and missed opportunity, there were at least 2 moments which got me emotionally involved and invested. And one was sort of like caged Molly freaking out. You know, the Bumble Zorps or whatever it was you're talking about. And the other one was the performance of them saying goodbye.
Yeah.
I thought just the acting of it was really beautifully done. And I got emotionally invested, even though none of the rest of it made sense.
You get some stamps.
Hell yeah!
They are self-sealing. Here are some stamps for you.
So basically everything you just said there, Keith, is the main crux of it, right? Those 2 best moments are these emotional moments. but the episode just does nothing to earn them. Zero, right?
Yeah.
Molly's transformation into this feral teen it just doesn't track emotionally, logically,
Yeah.
really, in any way. The story skips over any of the trauma it would have induced. Well, not any, but it sort of just has to truncate it, right? It doesn't, and thus forces upon the only resolution being we have to like escape her through time, which seems permanent, and it's not like, yes, they're saying that she might end up in prison and it might be more permanent, but like, also what doesn't track then is
it's a Federation hospital. It's not a death sentence.
right, and not only that, but we've seen Ben help other people more. I just feel like the stakes of what's happening doesn't really transcend outward of the O'Briens for me. So outside of all of that, with the exception of the performances of Colm Meaney, Rosalind Chow, which I think are really good, and also the other moment, the B story, which I think is cute and is, it's perfectly nice look at the honeymoon phase of Dax and,
But it's also like it's a sitcom trope. Like it's not a Star Trek story. It's not a new story. It's been told 10 million different times.
It's trite.
3 men and a baby,
Yeah. I would say the other thing, the other takeaway that I think is helpful, a color I like to see and I think shows growth and is worthy of the episode, is the change we see in Odo. Old Odo, Molly's not getting shuttled off. He is not complicit in this BS.
Yep.
And here, he does it with a wink and a nod, and I think that is huge growth. It's what I would have loved to seen a little bit from Quark, maybe in that moment, in a better episode. Now, maybe a two-parter, or like having a little bit of growth in it,
God, no,
would have helped. But I was like, but if you're just going to if we're just going to close the loop at the end, what are we doing, right? So now, if I'm not mistaken, Keith, Colm has been put in time prison, where he was like suffered decades of time in a blip of time, right? Tortured. Keiko was made a baby, and now Molly was made a caveman and brought back. With the exception of Yoshi, well, I guess he was the only person tortured in this episode was baby Yoshi actor, who had to constantly be with that Klingon makeup, which I imagine for a toddler is pretty frightening.
I mean, or they're like, sure, whatever. I haven't seen most of things, so like that's a new thing. Who cares?
The crying indicates to me pretty scared.
No, but again, the crying was
good acting
added later.
Oh right,
it was ADR.
Yeah, the faces weren't ADR. Anyway, CryDR. Look, it's a lot of hot nonsense. 35 stem bolts. The performance is pretty good.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The initial pitch, the idea of it, is a great idea. Like, if, like, the note card, that is, Molly goes through some sort of a gizmo, she had to survive in the wild all by herself, now she's back and she's an adult, how do we navigate this? What are the ethics of that? Do we find a way to reverse it? Do we not? How do we reintegrate somebody? How do we final act of Castaway Molly in the situation? Okay, cool. That's an interesting episode. But it just sort of like became hot nonsense and like so profoundly undercooked. It's like I pitched that idea and I'm like, Mike, you have 7 minutes to write the episode. We film now. Like, we're filming in 10 minutes. Go.
Right.
Because it really just was super, super undercooked and sort of nonsense. And so, I think it's a missed opportunity because, Time's Orphan took that same idea and made it a beautiful, thought-provoking, interesting episode that was self-contained but also pushed our story forward with characters and plot and gave us all this depth and understanding, and then this sort of just happened and like we all just sort of select all and delete. It feels like late season filler. And
It made me nervous a little bit at the end because I'm like, we only got 2 episodes. Can you bring the hurt in 2?
well, you know, it's Deep Space. I mean, it's season 6 of Deep Space Nine, right? So we've
Yeah, the fact that they have me believing they could have killed Molly is...
right.
I guess they sort of did kill Molly. They killed a Molly.
They definitely killed a Molly. They killed Molly that survived. So yeah, I mean, it's not good. It's not good.
Also, usually they handle time travel episodes with a little more caring about like.
Yeah, they were just like, yeah, whatever time.
Yeah.
And they could have tied it into all these other things, could have made the rules to make sense, but it feels like they did not have time to like write this episode. Yeah. So for me, it gets 51 self-sealing stem bolts, and I feel like that's being generous. So like, you know, whatever. I'm excited to move on. Interestingly, so this one gets a 6.1 on IMDb, which makes it 166 out of 173. So what that means is that in season 6 of Deep Space Nine, which is largely considered to be one of the greatest seasons of television of any Star Trek series or any
we have the best and the worst.
We have 2 straight bottom 10 episodes in a row here. And like, you're not bottom 10 out of 50. You're bottom 10 out of 173.
Yeah.
So it is really fascinating to sort of like really we're running, we're sprinting, we're going, and boy do we like trip on a brick here for a second. But you know, that's okay. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. Next week we're gonna be talking about the sound of her voice. I'm running out of voice. Should never do Trump voice early in an episode.
That was a lot.
But yeah, so I'm excited about that. Mike, what are you excited about? What are you excited for?
It's Friday, so Jen is running a 10 miler this weekend, so I'm going to go watch her do that. Tomorrow I get to go to eat pizza. I'm excited about some salespeople trying to sell me a new air conditioner.
Ooh, I mean those are all fun. I'm gonna go see Pirates tonight.
Oh, I want to see that. There's like a handful of stuff I want to see, but that's for a different podcast, I guess. I'm excited.
Pirates of Penzance.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's nice out. I hope it stays nice. That's what I'm excited about.
All right, well, I gotta go walk my 3 miles.
All right, brother.
We will see you back here next week with the sound of her voice. This has been Keith and Mike. Watch Deep Space Nine. Thank you for watching K&M Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe. Or become one of our patrons at patreon.com/KNM. Put the ampersand in, right?
No, spell out that M.
Who are supposed to be the ruthless businessmen, and suddenly they're doing lectures on gender equality like it's a 1990s HR seminar.